New Zealand has long been considered the holy grail of jet boat river racing. With so many rivers to choose from and such variation in water conditions, it's little wonder Kiwi racers are held in high esteem by their North American counterparts. Little wonder also that 3 teams have come down under to pit themselves against the best in the AB Equipment World Jet Boat Marathon. Te Wero o Te Awa, the challenge of the river. 40 boats make up the 5 classes, with engines ranging from the small 4-litre D-class entries through to the unlimited twin-turbo V8s. 12 legs up and down 6 rivers in both islands of New Zealand. In the north, the deep, wide, open stretches of the Wanganui, the rocky shallows of the Rangitikei and the infamous rapids of the Manawatu. Further south across Cook Strait, the rivers become technically more difficult as they split into a maze of braided skinny channels. First on the Waiau, then the Rakaia, before the final day on the Waimakariri, just outside Christchurch. It all begins right here on the Wanganui, arguably New Zealand's most celebrated river. The Wanganui flows from the snow peaks of Mount Ruapehu in the Tongariro National Park. Jet boat tradition makes it an important river to race. Some might even consider it sacred. For despite its wide open stretches, seemingly easy navigating, the Wanganui has claimed its share of race boats. Depending on the river level, weirs or rock shelves deceptively hard to see lurk just below the water surface, waiting to claim their next victim. It is the traditional owners though, the Maori, for whom the river is most sacred.
E rere kau mai te awa nui, mai te kāhui maunga ki Tangaroa. Ko au ka te awa ko au. Now that says the river flows from the mountain to the sea. I am the river and the river is me. And that what that really means is that we as a Niwi owe our existence to the river. Also, we descend from ancestors who actually lived within the river and are part of the river life. And if there is no river, and if the protocols of the river are not carried out as they should be, then that has a real impact both spiritually and physically on the iwi themselves.
The local iwi or Maori people have granted permission and given their blessing for the marathon to begin. For everyone, it will be a marathon, an endurance race to the end. For some, it is a race just to get to the start. The team from Ampol Performance Oils burns the midnight oil just to make it to the start line. A suspected split in the engine block means an overnight engine rebuild before the event has even started. Frantic efforts are made to get it repaired and ready for racing in less than 10 hours' time.
Ross, these are not normal working hours?
Not really, no. This is motorsport working hours.
Hey, Bruce. Indeed. Do you want to go on that first?
No, with the hose.
After rebuilding the engine, he burst straight to life. Obviously the boys are happy with it, so, well, I reckon you only have one big mistake, and I think we've had it. So, I think the boys worked their guts out last night. They're all buggered now, but they've done an excellent job, so I've just got to do my part for them now.
For Tony Ward in the South Sea steamship Quickcraft, it's a case of third time lucky. He's been runner-up in 3 World Championships.
I've either been second or I've been out. I haven't actually finished. There's been no sort of middle ground. So, I mean, I really don't hold too many expectations for the race, but I would dearly love to win a race.
When it comes to winning, most have the same game plan. Don't try and win the race on day one. Conserve the equipment and make it to the end. 900 kilometres of pounding and crashing up rivers and rapids, shingle bars and banks will test the stress levels of every internal engine component as well as the crews. Americans Jeff Laird and Tim Harding in Jetcraft Eagle have other ideas though, a burning desire they make clear from the start.
We'll run hard today. Actually, our scheme of things is we're going to run real hard on the North Island, and we're probably going to soften up a little bit on the South Island. I mean, this is a strategy. So we're going to pick the pace up today, and hopefully we're going to come right ahead of everybody, time-wise.
Tim, what's in the engine that's going to make you stay out in front?
Well, we've got a 556 electronic sequential port fuel injection by Lee Performance, and it's got all the good parts: Crowler cranks, the best stuff you can buy, titanium retainers, one-piece valves, the whole works. It's all roller, and you can't buy any better. So the only thing you can do is hope nothing breaks.
Their strategy works. Laird leaps to the lead and doesn't look back. Ashburton's Duncan Storia in the Optima Batteries Quickcraft sports the biggest engine in the field. At a massive 10 litres, Storia is right on his tail. But the Optima charge dies when the crankshaft breaks after only 10 minutes of racing. Tony Ward, keen to break the bridesmaid bogey, is every bit the Americans' match, but isn't out to win the marathon on day one.
We could actually hold Jeff Laird, no problem at all, but we elected to just let him get away a bit to get out of his rooster tail. And everything was running just fine, and then sort of noticed going around left-hand corners that the engine didn't feel too good. It was starting to flutter a bit, and it progressively got worse. Right-hand corners was fine, so I thought it was something to do with the carburetor, and then next thing the engine quit. And we went up a shingle bank. That was okay. We pushed the boat back in the water and got going, got to the top in second place.
Canadian Spencer King leads the third wave to Pipariki, posting second fastest time overall, leaving the host nation in little doubt about the top speed of the international competition. Kiwi Michael Hill in Mobile runs an Eagle hull, the same as Spencer King's, designed and built by another jet boater, Rob Krunick in Canada. And like King, he also runs a lightweight high-output engine.
It's a Ford SVO based around the NASCAR engines. It's 383 cubic inches, which is probably smaller than most in A or open. But being small, its fuel consumption's a little lighter than everyone else. But we still have the horsepower of most of the big boys.
Another down on horsepower is American Justin Boyce. Back home in Oregon, with help from Sunset Engine Developments, Justin has a massive 1,200 horsepower at his disposal, thanks to Garrett turbos and Lee Performance injection in a specially modified Eagle hull from his own Boyce Marine. At more than 200 kilometres per hour, it's easily the fastest jet boat in the world today.
We thought that for this year it would be wiser just to take a proven, setup here in New Zealand. So we shipped one of our good, dependable motors over, and we're running the Hamilton, 182 boat. And we're kind of wishing now we had our tunnel. The braids are tough, but we think we can probably handle them. But this year will be good. This boat's much more forgiving. We're going to try and charge up the braids and learn a little something, be competitive. But this is just practice for years to come.
And if the lack of power isn't bad enough, he's also got the weight of an extra crewman.
We're giving a little speed there, but I've got a good crewman, Ron Crook, who's been with me for 3 years now. And I wanted to get a New Zealander in the boat with me. I've been friends with Ian Armstrong, who's our pointer. We didn't really feel right. It was bumping Ron out of the boat, so we threw the third seat in for him. And we're just going to have some fun, be consistent.
36 minutes after the flag drops, Jeff Laird's orange Burning Desire hits Pipariki, 90 kilometres from the start. At speeds in excess of 170 kilometres an hour, it's hardly surprising he sets a new record for the upstream leg and in the process wins the Perpetual Challenge Trophy, presented by the local Pipariki Maori community.
Presenters, I'd like to say, wish you all the best.
Thank you.
The downstream drag to Wanganui proves fatal for South Sea Steamship. Tony Ward's turboed 302 Chev fails again and he can't be restarted, forced out early to spectate.
We were the fifth boat away from the top of Pipariki, got geared up, jumped in the boat, went to start it, and a brand new battery was dead flat. I just couldn't believe it. So anyway, we got a jump start from another boat and got our time going good and took off. but of course we still had the little carburetor problem. And we got to a pretty good left-hand corner. And once again the engine quit, but we had no battery, we couldn't start. So we had to wait for a patrol boat, and we ended up losing about an hour the first day.
And spectate he did as veterans John Butterfield and Peter Phillips arrive on the scene soon after. There's nothing wrong with their engine, they just can't decide which way to go.
And looking down the left side, we saw a patrol boat plus another boat. We thought maybe he's in trouble down there, so we looked to go to the right. And when we looked to the right, there was quite a nasty weir there, about a 2 or 3 or 4 foot drop. And we decided to turn round, and as we started to turn, I said to John, there's a couple of deer up in there. John, look at those. And he said, oh, is there? And he looked up, and we never completed the turn, you see, and we ended up at the bank. And that's what actually happened. So that was it. We were stuck up the bank at about 45-degree angle, which was a bit awkward. And he got out and he asked me very kindly if I would get out of the boat. He mentioned it. He said, Peter, would you mind please getting out to help me push the boat back? And I said, certainly, John, it'll be my pleasure. And with that, the patrol boat came along and we got a nice little push from them. We managed to push it back in the water, which quite amazed me, and we took off again.
The colourful duo, appropriately named the Super Crocs, between them had more racing experience than any other team in this event. John won New Zealand's first and longest marathon race back in 1976, but hasn't raced seriously since.
Well, it's probably a bit crazy at my age, but Peter and myself sort of talked jet boating again. He said, well, why don't we have a go in the marathon? And I said, well, I think I'm a bit old for it. And he said, oh, hang on. He said, we'll have a go. He said, you know, we might be able to finish.
Phil Whelans in the Ampol Performance Oils needs ample oil just to finish the day, but is happy to be in the running after the engine rebuild.
I'm obviously in a rush last night, put the motor back in. Someone hasn't done up a hose and it's pumping the oil straight into the bottom of the boat. We've already gone through 12 litres and we've run out of oil now, so hopefully we can get it fixed. Back into it.
Not surprisingly, Jetcraft Eagle leads the way home.
The boat ran great. I mean, couldn't ask for anything better. The conditions were nice. As my navigator says, the cleaner, the greener the water, or the faster we go, and all at once we hit some pretty green water, and it seemed like the boat just took off coming downstream.
But right on his tail is a very surprised and pleased Buzz Bazant.
Yeah, mate, we're stoked with that. Yeah.
What were the conditions like out there? I mean, it seemed that they were the river's high. Any problems for you?
No, the river was perfect. It was really good, and suited the faster boats. South Long will be a different story.
1 second behind Canterbury's Michael Hill.
Well, we hope to be in the top 5 at the end of this race, at the end of this league, so we're more than happy where we are. Well, we're hopeful the smaller boat is going to be more suited to the braided rivers, so with a bit of luck we'll be a bit quicker on as the rivers tighten up a wee bit.
Day 2 on the Rangatiki, and the bright orange American hull is nowhere to be seen. In its place, Canadian Spencer King moving Quality Care back into contention after a wire came loose on the starter the day before. The upstream leg proves a disaster for organisers when the aptly named Eagle Rock hits one and rolls. Fortunately for Bob Rarity and John Burford, help is not far away.
We're about 300 metres behind the guys in the boat, and as we come up the stretch of water here, the sun was on it. You could see how easily it was going to happen. We didn't actually see what they hit, we just saw the boat go up in the air and then free-end itself. By the time we got here, the boat was upside down and they were both pinned underneath it. There was quite a bit of damage. Fortunately, we were in a group of boats and several others got here on time to roll it off them. We kept their heads out of the water, and I think they're in the best hands now. These paramedic guys are doing a really good job.
Another on the scene within moments is American Justin Boyce. Thanks to the quick actions of his Kiwi crew, Ian Armstrong, Rarity will be okay, but not before some anxious moments. It's a sobering moment for everyone involved.
But I've never been first-hand to something quite like that. I hope the two gentlemen are all right. I think they will be, but that was, you hate to see that in racing, that's for sure. This river is relatively similar to what we have at home. Not real braided, one main channel, lots of rocks, lots of logs, but boy, you come across something like that and it sure makes you think, huh?
What does this do for you personally now that you get back into racing? How's it going to affect you on the river?
You got to climb right back into the saddle. You got to get in the boat and go hard. I've got a beautiful wife and a little baby and another one on the way here in just a month and a half. So you certainly dot your I's and cross your T's, and you drive with your brain. But you get right back in the boat and you go.
The Kawerau jet entry, driven by Neville Kelly, is in trouble but limps on, looking for the upstream finish line. Attrition is taking control of the AB Equipment World Marathon, and it's only day 2.
Broke a rocker arm. So we had to limp about 5 mile up the river, about 3,000 revs. It's one of those things.
Easily fixed?
Yep, we've got spares there, so it's just blowing it all to bits, blowing the whole thing to bits. Probably lost half a dozen places.
Their loss is the Madison's gain. Father and son, Dave and Craig, in Prestige Auto Body Shop, have found themselves in second overall.
At this stage, yes. Yeah, we haven't had any problems as now, and the Wanganui is very tough on your engines. Today it's not so bad because you can pull off a bit, but
we built the engine ourselves, so we're fairly confident of it. I think now we've got our place. We've just got to run for home now. I think it's a long way to go, and if we can just keep persevering, and I think we should be there somewhere in the finish.
But come the end of the day, they are nowhere to be seen. A blown engine adding them to the growing list of casualties. And engine problems too for New Zealand River Racing President Robert Thompson after a disastrous start to the marathon the day before.
We're playing with another guy to see how fast he was, and we caught his wake and spun up, probably doing about 95. Dug it in and spun it round. Filled the boat with water, filled the motor with water.
Now, with niggling engine problems, Thompson is forced to cruise the A-class entry up and down the Rangatiki at less than full throttle, watching as others go by.
We just want to bring you up to speed on events to this.
The lunchtime turnaround is a sombre affair, with details still sketchy about the condition of the crew from Eagle Rock.
The date is that his navigator has moderate injuries.
Jeff Laird arrives by road with Burning Desire in tow. Jetcraft Eagle has broken a rocker stud mount 7 kilometres from the start.
Broke a boss in our cylinder head that our rocker arm fits on. Never seen it happen in my life in any kind of racing, but I guess it just did.
You've got a spare head though?
Yeah. These guys are working on it, and we should have it back on hopefully in less than an hour.
Somebody grab another new spark plug.
We put a new head on it.
And in less than an hour, they are back in the Rangatiki, leading off the delayed downstream leg. Canadian Spencer King is the big mover in Sunset Shaker, along with Michael Hill in Mobile. Ironically, both Eagle hulls and both powered by Ford engines. It is King, though, who powers by Hill and on to the finish for the overall lead, leaving the Kiwi the outside line, very little water, and second overall at the end of day 2.
Yeah, we're just being courteous towards the Canadians and allowing them the inside line through. Time we'd let them go, again, concentration, a little bit of concentration lapse, and they'd taken the good water, the good channel. We had a bad one in front of us. Bit of mud, bit of dry land, but we got across it all right.
The Super Crocs are settling into the swing of things on the Rangatiki, but they've miscalculated their fuel load. The resulting push back to the water adding insult to yesterday's injury, but yet again they have another very plausible excuse.
Well, you see, the problem was, of course, you know, we had to fuel up on the Monday for the Tuesday run, and pension day's Tuesday, we didn't have enough money to fill it with gas. So that became a problem for us. But I must say it was, we misjudged it. Last time I raced a boat in real anger was in 1971. But I did have a practice run in a family race in the Ashburton River. I hate to tell you, I ran out of petrol in that race.
Wet, murky conditions greet the teams as they arrive at the Manawatu River near Palmerston North. Race controller Rex Cragen warning of the conditions up through the Whitehorse Rapids.
Like this, there'll be water swirling and you're going to get pushed around a little. You need to take control of your boat here.
But race leader Spencer King never makes it to the notorious stretch of water, relegated to the trailer with internal engine problems. Yet another engine with a blown piston. Suspicion rises about the quality of racing fuel, many opting for octane additive to relieve the stress on engines. If you think this is divine madness, then you're right. But C-Class entry Ray Watson isn't fazed by the thought of the ensuing rage of water. Having successfully boated the Whitehorse before, it's all a matter of common sense.
I don't see any major problems, but it's not. I don't think it's a rapid that you go charging into. You have to pick your line. We've got a reasonable idea of where we're going to go. There is a defined track, and if we can get through that, we'll be happy. About probably a couple of 100 metres below the rapid, the best position would be on the left-hand side going up. You get on there's some calmer water through there, and then there's quite a little pressure wave there. In fact, it could be quite big, and if you can bounce across that, and then you're into the mainstream, and there's a tongue, and you should be able to get straight up through there. There are 3 rocks on the right-hand side that appears to be quite large ones, and you'd want to keep away from those. So one of the problems is if you approach it too quickly and the boat bounces offline, then you could have a problem with those rocks.
No problem for Divine Madness or most of the field, who, with the exception of a couple, safely traverse the steep climb to Balance Bridge. Chaos for Captain Kidd as the engine stalls midway through the rapid. With water threatening to sink the boat, Jim Risson frantically tries to restart his stricken craft.
We had a bit of a problem with our throttle linkage right in the wrong place of the river. We got halfway up through the rapid and the throttle slipped around, so we had no throttle. And it happened twice, but we don't normally get 2 shots at it.
This time they know the problem.
Adrian was able to grab the throttle, but the way the thing had stuck, we still couldn't get full power, but we got more than we had the first time, sort of thing. Just enough to climb out, luckily enough.
It was a case of once bitten, twice shy. Crewman Adrian Flett swinging into action to get them to the safety of smooth water, if only just. Rob Pooley in AGR Mobile was chatting with the locals last night, looking for inside information on which is the best track.
No, we just got a little messed up in our thinking. We listened to too many people and the river came up, and the sort of local knowledge, the line that they're using there just wasn't the right line today.
How are you going to handle the downstream leg?
Completely differently. We'll just take a cup of coffee each, I think, and see if we can get through without spilling it.
Our game plan was, in fact, to stay to the left-hand side, and we got closer, and I said to Andy, turn the bilge pumps on just in case. But we put the tabs down a little bit. We saw the track. There was a huge bounce in the centre, and yeah, that was a little disconcerting. When you're actually down at water level, it looks huge. But no, really, really happy to be here.
Also happy to be here is AB Equipment's Paul McCoy, who's pleased with proceedings as we prepare to leave the North Island at the halfway stage of the marathon.
This is a world event. It's the World Championship, and we felt it appropriate, given the world-class equipment we have and the people that we have, to put these two things together. And we have a little saying in our company that says, if we're not customer driven, then our equipment won't be either. So by bringing those people, our customers, into our branch, and using, quite frankly, the marathon and the scrutineering of the boats in our building, and having this world-class event associated with the opening of our premises, we've been able to say thank you to the customers that have supported us.
You see the steering system here is all double lock. It looks pretty good, actually.
Just like jet boat racing, what we do is a people business. And if our people can develop long-term, lasting relationships with our customers' people, then we believe we're going to win.
Debris in a rising Manawatu River creates havoc at the downstream start. Thoughts of winning are dashed as teams struggle to get up on the plane. Jet unit intakes jammed with floating sticks and leaves. For B-class leader Ross Bailey, it's a total disaster. In an attempt to avoid the debris close by the bank, he's pushed off into the fast-flowing current. But DeSoto won't fire and is carried off downstream towards the start line. Their fifth placing overall is swept away with the current as they frantically try to replace a burnt-out starter motor.
That'll have to do. Just go over to Anne's trucks and pinch their 10 more.
Like many, Buzz Bazant in Desperado can't get going either. Precious moments tick by. With a jet unit intake grill jammed with debris, there's only one answer. Crew Richard Drever must go under the boat and manually clear the grill. What should have been a 45-minute run to Foxton takes more than an hour. Rookie Nigel Butterfield in Racecourse Hotel wishes for a dry track in the Whitehorse, trapped between the two rapids with a boat full of water. Unable to drain the water, he chances it and wallows through the white water, eventually making it to Foxton. By the end of this leg and the first stage of the AB Equipment World Marathon, Michael Hill has extended his lead to 24 minutes over his nearest rival, American Justin Boyce in rainbow print. John Vanderhaal in ICI Autocolour holds down third ahead of Neville Kelly, with Rob Pooley rounding out the top 5 in AGR Mobil. Next stop, the Waiau River, regrouping for the second stage of the marathon in the South Island, and hopefully some fine weather. Despite the high attrition rate of entrants in the North Island, 34 of the original 42 jet boats lined up for the second stage of the AB Equipment World Marathon. A day off between stages enabled many teams to rebuild engines and boats in readiness for the next 3 days of racing. Gone are the wide open rivers of the North Island. In their place, the tighter braided shallows of the Waiau, Rakaia and Waimakariri. With a comfortable lead over his nearest competitor, Michael Hill cruises away from the start on the Waiau, determined not to lose control of what is fast becoming his race. Despite the lead, he still posts second fastest time upstream. But it is Rob Pooley in AGR Mobil who shows what a bit of local knowledge can do, finishing his run to Hanmer in a blistering 41 minutes. He only just makes it though, forced to park the other side of the finish flag after an engine failure crossing the line.
We had a lot of trouble getting past a couple of boats, but all in all, pretty happy till we got about 100 metres from the line, and then there's a herring great bang, and she just went down cylinder by cylinder. It was Canada Revisited actually, except over there it happened 6 minutes into the first race.
Frantic efforts to rebuild the big Chev in time for the downstream run fail, and Pooley's campaign comes to an end.
Pretty much had it all ready to go, and then fell foul of a lack of spares. We needed a timing belt. We tore the teeth off the timing belt, and just didn't have it, couldn't start, so that was it. We had to pull the pin. And there's very few sports where they take an engine and just run it pretty much at full throttle for literally hours on end, and in some instances that's what we end up doing. This year particularly we had up and down the Wanganui was a full noise run, and the lower end of the Rangitikei and the lower end of the Manawatu were all very hard runs. And you know, credit where credit's due, you've got to look at the people who have thrown the resources at their machinery to ensure that they've bought that sort of security, that sort of reliability. And secondly, of course, the guys who have gone out there and managed their own run. They have just backed off a wee bit and brought their motors through it, and they're still here now, and it's definitely a tortoise and hare situation when you look at who's still out there. I wish them all the best.
His intention was clear from the start. Justin Boyce is really here to gain experience, but somehow the American finds himself in second overall, going to show that having the fastest boat is not the only ticket to the top. His consistency and the attrition of some of the larger horsepower around has Justin in with a chance. But it is short-lived. Even his more conservative engine isn't excused from failure.
Well, we're pretty sure it's bottom end. I'm pulling valve covers just in hopes, but it looks like a piston or maybe even a crank. It's got a good rattle to it. But, we got spare pistons. We don't have a spare crank. Racing, like I said, it's 90% work. You can have everything just tip-top, but you still got to have that 10% luck, I think.
As it turns out, it's only a broken rocker, but he's unable to repair it in time for the start of the downstream leg to Waiau Township, effectively ending any chance of a podium finish. Expatriate Kiwi John Vanderhaal, on the other hand, isn't out to break speed records in ICI Autocolour. Residing in America gives him access to some top-notch engine technology.
It's basically, this engine was developed on a computer in the States, principally based on a NASCAR engine, and we ran it through Jim Oddy's computer Jim Oddie is principally involved in the IHRA over there, also has a background in offshore marine racing. So that's principally where that recipe came from. Whether it's any better than anyone else's, I don't know. Ultimately, we're not as fast and we don't have the knowledge of these rivers that a lot of the teams do. We get to race once a year, but our plan was to always be circulating, always be handy, and let the others drop out. And as long as we're there, we'll end up doing pretty well.
Not doing quite so well, Jeff Laird and Tim Harding, this time another problem.
Problem is we don't know the problem. We're trying to figure it out. We really don't know. We're going to make it back down and we'll work on it tonight.
Every time you people film us, we're monkey wrench.
You've got water in the oil?
Yeah, lots of it. We got it for sale, we might want some.
The surprise of the day is Jason Scott in the Cummins-sponsored Hang Loose, whose time upstream is one of the fastest. The boys from Southland are getting it together the closer they get to home.
How much in get in amongst the trees here?
Yeah.
Spurred on, Jason races away to a 2-minute lead on the downstream leg and overall honours for the day. Canadian Spencer King, well out of contention for overall honours, is rockin' and rollin', shortcutting every corner he can. While his race for the winner's crown is run, he is out to have some fun in Sunset Shaker. The father and son duo on fire coming downstream.
Oh, it motor quit and I looked back and she was in flames.
A little nut that holds the needle and seat in, it had vibrated loose. And then we got inside the boat and we found the two little pieces of miracle. And then we got going again, but sure hard on the engine with all that, with the fire retardant going in her and that. Once we got her going, we were hoping for a good run, but...
It seemed like a pretty good run coming downstream.
Yeah, he was straight lining her pretty good there.
What's the art in straight lining, Spencer?
Just, you can see water on the other side of the gravel bar and then kind of take a little run for it.
Neville Kelly in his first marathon is flying in Kawarau Jet, the commercial jet operator from Queenstown, now in second overall behind Michael Hill. But things get all steamed up when the steering breaks downstream soon after the gorge, and he and Adam Berry take a ride on the wild side.
Snapped that rose joint and just lost all steering from there.
So what was the ride like?
Oh, the ride was good. Across the rocks were beauty. But it's just one of those things, like it's a brand new part. It's only done like 3 hours or 4 hours and then broke. But you just can't trust anything really, can you?
No.
But disappointing, that's it. A lot of work goes into it. And something like that breaks, you just can't, it's just one of those things.
Mark Freeman joins Kelly and Jeff Laird in what quickly becomes known as the graveyard. And so begins the slow push back to deeper waters. Lance Begbie and Gerard Ness are less fortunate though, rolling their A-class entry in the same spot. Both are airlifted to Christchurch Hospital, but later released. The Rakaia River south of Christchurch is famous the world over for its salmon fishing. Today though, it's the penultimate day of the AB Equipment Marathon, and fishing should be the last thing on anyone's mind.
Well, it's the season, you know, the salmon are running, so one can't help but keep one's eye out to see if there's anything leaping, bit of tail work, so.
But when the flag drops, the croc stops. And John Butterfield and Peter Phillips power the unlimited Super Crocs entry to the Rakaia Gorge, covering the 85 kilometres in under 42 minutes, fourth fastest on the upstream leg. Over lunch, they take no chances on the fuel load. Trouble is, they've lost the fuel dipstick.
Well, we did. We lost our proper one, so make one a willow tree.
How was the run up?
Yeah, the run was good. Yeah, we had a great run up. A few boats have pulled out again, so that reduced the field even more. So we've probably gone up a place or two, and well, we're pretty happy about that.
The Rakaia is like a second home to Christchurch's John Watson, demonstrating his skill taking shortcuts in southern Stinger the others couldn't or wouldn't take. Even a misfiring engine hardly slows him down, eventually crossing the line with the second fastest time of the morning.
We didn't realise until we got to the top really that one of our ignition leads had completely fried on the headers. We knew we'd lost 500 revs somewhere, but we weren't too sure where exactly it was, so it was pretty good to find exactly where they were when we got to the top.
But it's Stuart Cridge in the bigger unlimited entry, Independent Fisheries, who sets fastest time. In a shade over 40 minutes, he covers the distance from the Rakaia Lagoon to the gorge, throwing caution to the rising wind. The scent of the marathon end was in the air, and Cridge was making his run. In a brilliant display of driving, he closes the gap by 7 minutes on the second place John Vanderhole in ICI Autocolour. Only disaster will stop Michael Hill from being the next world champion. With a 30-minute margin, Hill can afford to back off. But little does his opposition know about Hill's own worries as he sets out on the morning run.
Well, we did an engine strip down in Blenheim and everything was clean. We ran the wire, and after the wire we took the oil filter off and it was chocker full of aluminium. We thought at that stage our race was over. We started a strip down of the engine. We had all the top gear off it, the front gear off it, rolled over and took the sump off it, and found a section of the windage tray had broken off and had been rubbing against the crank, the aluminium windage tray, and fortunately for us the oil filter had done its job and it had picked everything up and there was no damage to anywhere in the motor. But it's pretty tough sort of late at night when you find those sort of things. And, but we went right through the engine again to check, and it's hung together well.
But things aren't hanging together for Jason Scott. In fact, things are decidedly hanging loose, high and dry on a shingle bank.
I was coming up there at full noise and the jet unit bearing C smashed the drive shaft a bit in the rugby bank about 80 mile an hour. We're looking at about 5th or 6th overall. We knew it was coming yesterday though.
Did you?
We've been putting it off and off.
And Spencer King's flame goes out again, or is he just taking an early lunch stop?
No, I didn't stop for the barbecue. Cracked another piston. We think we're not running good enough fuel for the little engine, and we cracked a piston on the Manawa 2. We fixed it, and we were pushing hard here to try and win our class. She's done.
News of fellow North American Jeff Laird is scant.
He supposedly got a cracked block and unable to compete.
Didn't start today?
It's kind of a shame too.
Michael Hill leads the downstream charge in Mobile, but is playing it safe midstream after the previous night's engine problems, and isn't going to be intimidated by a hard-charging John Watson.
John was after winning the race today. He's not in our class, so we don't have a problem with it.
I did notice there near the end there was a little bit of temptation perhaps to get in and follow him, or there were a couple of spots there where you were getting a little bit tight.
Yeah, there's always that temptation, but you know, reality prevails and just let him go.
you know, Mike is obviously not racing at full speed. He's thinking about the title now, and he's trying to conserve everything, and all he's trying to do is just have nice clean runs to get up and down, because I think he must be about 30 minutes clear of the next boat now.
Watson, at home in the Skinny Water, does spend some time polishing the bottom of Southern Stinger on the stones in the shallows.
It was just one of those streams we got into, and it was just a matter of survival. We just had to forget about racing there for 2 or 3 minutes and make sure we got out into the main stream, which we eventually did, and luckily we didn't scar the boat too much. We seemed to get a rhythm up, and we did have a good run, and we had passed all the boats by the time we got down to the main road bridge. Then we had the river to ourselves, which is good, because you don't have to worry about any boat wakes, and you can really concentrate on what you're doing and go for it.
Fortunately for Stuart Cridge, he doesn't take the same track. The Quiet Achiever is turning up the boost in independent fisheries and moving 2 places to 3rd overall in the twin-turboed 510 cubic inch Chev. His bid for a podium finish on target.
John said, I was talking to him afterwards, and he said he was fighting for survival over there, because we knew we had to stick pretty close to the island on the way home, try to find our track home, and we dropped right into our trail all the way home, so we had a pretty good run down through there.
John Butterfield and Peter Phillips moved from 10th to 7th overall after some faultless driving, proving the Super Crocs are far from spent. Second fastest to Watson on the downstream leg.
I sort of feel I've got control of the boat now. It's not controlling me, and we're very pleased with the last few stages. So hopefully we can complete tomorrow, and we'll be pretty happy.
The boat's going superbly, John's going good, and on Saturday night he's allowed to have a beer, which is quite nice, because he hasn't had one for a few days, and I'm still telling lies about it.
Further down the line, defending C-Class World Champion Ray Watson fights it out with Jim Risson in Captain Kidd. Almost 4 minutes separates the slower Watson from his rival. Without full power, Risson is unsure of his chances of hanging on to the lead, but is hoping for the best.
Oh, it was quite good actually. Didn't have a bad run at all really, but we're just not quite going fast enough. That's the problem. The engine still lost revs. But we had an MSD distributor in here, and we're hoping that that's the problem now. Just going to put this one here and then give it another run before we leave the river here.
Anything special for tomorrow?
No, get these revs back and try and get a few minutes back. Oh, it'll be quite interesting tomorrow, I think, because Ray Watson in our class, I would say he would be just about on the same times now. So if we can get this thing humming again, it'll be interesting racing.
That's a new one. Take 5.
25 boats start the final day of the AB Equipment World Marathon, with only 10 boats free of penalties and with any chance of winning the world title. For race controller Rex Cragen, just running the event has been a marathon in itself.
Today's the culmination of a 6-day huge event. I mean, we've had, this is the end of the day is 846 kilometres of river racing, and it's been pretty hard on everybody, competitors, officials, and it's a very intensive event. So today, I guess we want clean runs up and down. We of course don't want any more accidents, and we want everybody up and down clean so that we can get a clean result as quickly as possible at the end of the event.
Waimakariri is a traditional place for the finish of the marathon. Why is that?
Well, it's because it's the most jet-boated river in the world. It's a beautiful river. It's challenging. It's got a little bit of everything in it, but it is definitely a boater's river, and finishing, of course, close to a major population base like Christchurch is great too, because we've got a spectacle out here today that it far exceeds anything we've had in the past with marathons, and it's going to be a great day.
For race leader Michael Hill, it is business as usual. Stick with the game plan, keep out of harm's way, and run your own race. 70 kilometres to the Gorge Bridge and back. John Vanderhole isn't pushing either. The concern for ICI Autocolour is holding on to second overall.
We've got about 11 minutes up our sleeve, and it's a shorter leg today, so as long as we get up and down on the pace, we should be in good shape. No, we have no expectation of making any inroads on Michael. That's not part of the game plan. We just want to keep circulating. It's critical to get up and down with a reasonable sort of a time.
The upstream race is uneventful except in B class, where the two remaining contenders for overall both strike trouble. Class leader Mike G. Taylor spins up in the unfamiliar braided waters and can't restart the engine. Like a duck tending her ducklings, Jeff Horn arrives on the scene with the rescue boat, towing them to safety. To be eligible for a win in a World Marathon, competitors must start and finish every leg. By the time Mike and crewman Alec Hall find the wire dislodged from the ignition system, they won't have enough time to make the finish line within the allowed penalty time. After more than 800 kilometres of racing, they will miss their class win by just 3 minutes. All Reynard Crode has to do now is get Eastfuels to the finish line, but the Waimakariri bogey gets him too. His dream of a class placing, let alone a win, shatters with his flywheel.
Well, we've come up here, we went to take a channel and it just died, and it just disintegrated the flywheel. It's gone through the fuel tank and through the constant muffler. That we'll have to sort it out and see what's collapsed first. What we're going to do with it, it's got to happen right first time or you'll lose it. Alright? Or can we pump some of this water out to start with?
It's only going to come back in, isn't it? Right. So once we're up to a level, it'll be alright.
It is a custom-built rescue boat. It's running a massive thrust 2-in-2 unit, which gives us awesome pulling power both in forward and reverse. The other features of it is full access right to the back, so we can walk right down to the corners to hook onto cleats when we're towing. We run the bar around the back of it, not for a crash bar, but when we're towing off a specially built winch in it, we can tow a boat on a very short rope. The jet unit puts the pressure of the water under the boat, lifts it out of the water for us, and we're away towing. We've got control through the shallows. The majority of our time is spent recovering boats, more so than attending accidents, and that's what the boat's been purposely built for, is for towing boats and getting into shallow water to help competitors. It's surplus to what competitors expect, but now that they've got it, they want it there all the time.
Race leader Michael Hill is unaffected by John Watson, who goes on to take line honours in both directions. With overall honours out of the question for Justin Boyce, he concentrates on what he came here to do, gain valuable experience in the New Zealand shallows.
It's been quite an experience. We'll be back for sure. Boats handled well, crew's done a good job. I've learned a lot, and we've had a lot of fun. We'd like to complete the trip well and getting down there in one piece, but we'll be back. I guess I can sum it up with that.
And settle it he does, thundering down the Waimak a mere 26 seconds behind John Watson. If there's one thing the Canadian is, it's tenacious. Spencer King has rebuilt the engine in Sunset Shaker overnight, yet again, replacing 7 of the 8 pistons.
We're really not too sure why it's doing it. Maybe we're pulling a little bit too much power off the little motor and cracked the piston. So we fixed her and we're out here just to have a good time and see if we can maybe pull a third or something like that. Marathon's been really good to us. It's just we've had lots of troubles and had lots of mechanical troubles that we shouldn't have had, and you know, been lots of drama in our boat. And I tell you, we've had our fair share of good times and bad times. So,
if ever there was a marathon tortoise, Ray Watson is it. The C-Class entry is shorter and slower than most, but Divine Madness mixes it with the big boys. Consistency is the name of the game, and Watson has watched enough fall by the wayside to eventually take class honours and an amazing 3rd overall. Consistency is also the game plan for John Vanderhole, holding on for 2nd overall. But the ICI Autocolour entry loses its shine when a broken valve spring forces him to trailer the final leg back to the finish for the presentation, letting Stuart Cridge in Independent Fisheries in for 2nd overall. But it's Michael Hill and navigator Colin Bond who power home in a total elapsed time of 6 hours, 58 minutes and 4 seconds. After flawlessly racing 846 kilometres over 6 rivers with a winning margin of more than 53 minutes, Hill and Bond are entitled to the world crown. Never before in the history of marathon racing has a championship been won by such a margin. For outgoing world champion Mark Cromie, it's time to hand over the mantle.
Marathons are hard, and I must admit, I congratulate the guy. I know what marathon's all about, and it's hard work, and it's hard to keep winning. And next time you go out, you're number 1, and it's hard to stay there. It's easy to go down, but I'll be back, and I'd like to come back from underneath. Mark's someone I've always looked up to, and he ran in America last year. We had some problems, and he got through, and well credited to win last year. No, we had a good run today and made a few mistakes going up, but we had a very good run coming down, and it was a comfortable run home, so we just got in the groove very well, and it paid off well for us.
The overall winner of the AB Equipment sponsored World Jet River Marathon race is Michael Hill in Mobile.
This is our 3rd World Championship attempt, so 3rd time lucky. And it's good to see it stayed in New Zealand.
We showed them, at least on the North Island, that we got the fastest boat, and it came from America this year.
Well, I'd love to come back down again and have another crack at these guys.
I had one guy tell me, he says, well, the fastest boat never wins. I wish I could prove him wrong.
As I said to you at Wanganui, watch out for the South Island's at the end of the marathon. That's what's happened.
We really have had a bit of luck on our side, and we're pretty happy with it.
Hopefully we'll be back someday.